Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it.
It's a great pleasure to meet a new student within the master studio Urbanism and Landscape at KTH School of Architecture here in Stockholm. So, hey and welcome, Nicole.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for giving your time. How are you doing?
I'm good. A little bit tired at the end of the project. Didn't sleep that much, but yeah, I'm glad it's over and I'm pretty happy with the results. So it should be fine.
I understand. I saw the images and I saw the text, the description. It's very interesting. So really, really well done. I know it's hardworking and I can see it. So good job.
Thank you.
So Nicole, you are our storyteller. Give us a highlight about you, about your background. What are you passionate about?
So I'm originally from Austria, right now studying at KTH, doing some time abroad. And I grew up on the countryside, so living in a very large city is also pretty new for me, actually. And my passion with architecture actually started with 14. I decided to go to a higher technical college for interior design and furniture construction, where I also became a joiner and an interior architect. And with 19, then I decided to study architecture and moved to Graz, which is a small city in Austria. And there I studied architecture and worked part-time in architecture offices for 4 years. So and then I fell in love with Stockholm and came here. That's how I ended up here, basically.
That's awesome. Welcome to the capital of Scandinavia. So why you decide to move to Stockholm? Why specifically Stockholm?
2 years ago, we were here as a student excursion kind of. And I don't know, it just felt home for me. It was the feeling you get from this place was so remarkable. It was okay, that's my new home. I really want to live here.
I hope you're having a really great experience as well.
No, definitely. I love it.
Yes. Let's talk about your project. You were divided into groups within different focus areas. So what has been your focus?
So our group was the stone resources group. And so the aim of our project was basically to collect all the data, which is flying around in the endless of internet and wherever, about the ongoing projects right now in Stockholm, the ongoing building sites and where Stockholm extracts a lot of stones. And but it was not only about finding the data, but also visualizing them and also finding out how they are excavated, how they are dealt with the whole process of mining kind of, and also how it was done in the past. That was also a huge deal.
Was it easy to find data? Specifically this topic is not really,
No, it was the lucky thing, our teachers were so smart that they put in every group a native Swedish speaker. And that has actually helped a lot. I mean, I learned Swedish since I'm here, so I can understand it pretty well, but skimming through all the data, I have no idea how many 100 pages I read in articles and reports and wherever to find actually the data. And it's mostly a tiny little caption somewhere. So that was actually a really huge part. It was really researching and digging into material.
Yeah. Because the focus area is in Stockholm and the data should be from, let's say, Swedish websites or resources, right?
Exactly. And main data we got from Stockholm Stad, but also from Trafikverket and so on.
Yeah. Then how did you put all the data together? How much time did it take?
Very hard actually to say. I would say to collect the main data and to put it together, it took like a month. Like, it was really, and we're 3 people. It was not just me, it was also my team member Anastasia, Mark, and me and you. Or 4 in here. So yeah, and took really some time to dig into that and a lot of workforce.
And you started like out doing a map analysis, and what did you discover there?
Actually, how huge the amount of stone is. I mean, we're speaking here right now of like in total that 12 million cubic meters of stone are getting extracted within like mainly 4 projects. So basically, we have the bypass project, the E4 around Stockholm, which is the hugest amount with 8 million tons. Like just that covers 2/3 of the whole amount. And then we have 3 million tons by the new extension of the metro in Stockholm. And then we have the CityLink project, which is a glass fiber project running through basically all Stockholm from north to south. And the new Slussen project, the new main point in the city center. And those, like the CityLink and Slussen, gets about 1 million cubic meters. It's like the little part here. But like basically the bypass and the tunnelbahn is the main project, yeah.
But Nicole, when you say stone, like, is there like a specific kind of stone, or like, do you mean like in general, stones in general?
It's basically, I mean, it's hard to say. It's depending on like, yeah, the air, sorry, the soil at this moment, at this point. Like it could be that it's like hard granite, like from a really rock, and you have to blast it, but it could also be that it's like more sedimentation. I mean, the thing is, when we speak about like Stockholm, that was also a huge part. We found out how much landfilling was actually done in Stockholm. Like Stockholm has a huge history with the landfilling, and that they already digged out another stone and dumped it into the sea to generate land. So when you dig somewhere to build a new tunnelbahn or something, it could be like hard granite, but also like those filling materials from past centuries.
So like a lot of stones, no? Like now being
exactly.
Is this what like you discover when you started doing the maps and the analysis?
We also discovered the extracting points. Like that was a huge part, is like where all those masses get extracted actually. That was also really interesting, and like also in relation to the amount of masses. And we have like 3 or 4 main extraction points where basically all the masses gets like extracted, and then like some small ones. That was also really interesting. We found that it was like that the transportation agency, which is like in first line responsible for the stones which get extracted. So they own them, kind of extracting material, and they sell that to different companies. Like in each project, it's a different company or many different companies. So it's actually really hard to get the data. We have to call a lot of companies to do that, but also like to develop a overall plan what to do with the stones, because there are like so many small little players in the game. It's really hard to get a total overview of it.
And Nicole, I have the question here about like looking back historically. You started to mention a little bit about Stockholm soil and so on. Looking back historically, how was the relationship between human practices and the landscape in relation to your topic?
In terms of this topic, as I said, like when we talk about Stockholm, it's the landfilling, which is like the most thing, especially with like building the tunnelbahn in the 50s. That was a huge part of the whole story. But also like we discovered that about the half of Stockholm is actually artificial built. I mean, like Stockholm, the main name means like island on piles. So it already implements in the name that it's artificially built. And that was really interesting. But also like with the tunnelbahn in the 50s, they already had the question with what to do with the stone material. And there was I have to translate now the word from Swedish back to English. It's the city garden master, kind of, and Holger Blom at this time. And he decided to create an art project, which are the 10 hills in Stockholm, to dump them there. And that all had actually a huge impact on the whole picture of Stockholm, and especially in the suburbs. And loads of suburbs are now identifying there with their like hill, like, oh yeah, we're like Hammarbyback and wherever. So that was actually an art project became a huge part of society.
So they made like a really artificial hills,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. And it was really seen as an art project. So it was not like landscape architecture, anything. It was really like an art project. I'd see.
That's interesting, because now they are like main part of the city.
Exactly. It's really, interesting.
And many people think like these are like already exist, no? Like it's not artificial.
No, it's not artificial. Like it's a lot of like waste and stone like inside there, and it's totally artificial.
Yeah. And if you compare with today, what insights does it give?
Actually, I would say that it's really important that we figure out what we should do with the stones. Like every decade kind of has its topic how to deal with the stones. So in the last, I don't know, like centuries, we dumped it and generated land. The last decade, we built hills. So right now we have to look like, okay, do we create something new? Do we mark our century with how we deal with the stones? Or do we get back to an existing point? So that's like, really interesting how we see it. But one thing we really have to consider is like what's happening with the stones right now, or like the situation how it is right now, is that all the stones get extracted and they get transported by truck about 240 kilometers away from Stockholm to storage ports. And when we speak about all the masses we have, that's about 240 trucks per day. And that's a lot in terms of sustainability. Yeah. And that's a strategy which is happening right now. And so really what we have to figure out is how to do that in a more sustainable way. There's already, for the bypass project, there's already the idea, or like the contract actually, that the half of the masses, so for 4 million cubic meters, gets sold to the concrete factory Yehanda. And they ship it there by boat. They're actually building a harbor just because of that, to ship them then to Löten outside of Stockholm. And there the stones are getting washed and sorted out, and then they can have an afterlife in a concrete. But also one thing when we have to speak about like stone and blasting is that there is nitrogen on the stones. Like the stones are covered about 60% then with nitrogen, which is a huge fertilizer in itself, like not bad at all. But the thing is, we're handling it in the area with like protected water. We have Lake Mälaren and the groundwater for drinking water here. So if we don't handle the nitrogen correctly, it can pollute the whole drinking water in Stockholm. So that's why it's actually like right now the strategy is to ship it outside, so it's not dangerous for the drinking water anymore, and store it there for like 2 years, and the rain washes off the nitrogen. But with the new strategy that we want to ship that with boats and like shorten the length of the transportation, we also have to deal with the nitrogen. So there was this research project going on from Yehanda with a biologist, and they created wetlands where they pumped the nitrogen polluted water into the wetlands, like a very nice area actually there. And plants which need a lot of nitrogen will then automatically kind of set there and filter the nitrogen. It takes about 2 years, and then the nitrogen should be filtered out of the water, and the water has drinking quality again.
Yeah, that's very smart, no?
Yeah, it was really smart, and really like special thanks at this point to Karin from Yehanda. Like we were there, she answered every question, and it was really interesting, and it had a huge impact on our project.
Wow. So this is a kind of like smart and sustainable solution.
Exactly. This is like how we could picture the future a little bit, an idea of how we can deal with the stones in the future.
Yeah, and like tell me more about imagining the future. Like why in this specific way?
So as I spoke in terms of sustainability, I think we all know how well it goes right now, or not how unwell it goes right now with the climate change and everything. So we really have to change the way we deal. And yeah, the future should really be that we should deal with the stones on the point where they get extracted and not like ship them around anyway. So that was actually in the end our outcome of our project, was how we can clean them on site and how can that have a benefit in Stockholm, also considering that the main extraction points are in Stockholm.
And I guess this is what you choose to move forward with your design project.
Exactly. Like the next step in our project then was to investigate special area of interest. In our case, it was Blasieholmen, because there's the first extraction point for the new metro station in Kungsträdgården. And about 200,000 cubic meters of stone are going to get extracted there. And so, yeah, it was a really like special area of interest. And we did some research there, and basically we found out how dead the sea is there, but also how huge the history of Blasieholmen is in terms with this landfilling of Stockholm. Like Blasieholmen itself, or Viken and Nykajen, they're completely artificial. And yeah, at the beginning, there was just a very tiny island and not the kind of huge island we know today. So yeah, our project idea then was to get rid of the boats of Vaxholmbolaget, ship them to the new Slussen port right now, and kind of create a wetland structure there, so that we have the ability to actually extract the stones there and sort them and clean them with mobile cleaning facilities, which are available and where we have the space on this island, and then pump the water into the new wetlands we can create with stone material which we extract there. And so kind of the stones get stored by themselves on point, and also the nitrogen water gets filtered into the project itself, but also the stormwater which comes out like right now. At the end of Parken, there's a stormwater outlet, which kind of has the whole water coming from Östermalmstorg directly into the Baltic Sea. So that will also be an aim to clean the water there and to make the Baltic Sea better.
That's interesting, but like, is it open to people to visit, like during the 2 years, like during this kind of a process? Is it open for people to be there, or no, they shouldn't be there?
No, like that was also one main point of us, because like this area is very touristically attractive, a very touristically attractive area. So of course we have to deal with people as well on this side. So our idea was, with the wetlands, I mean, you have a beautiful nature down there, which could become a more tourist attraction, but also like it could benefit the hotel, because they have like nature right outside the window. And like imagining like you're having a coffee at the Hotel Diplomat and you have the window open with like the view on the wetlands. And I think it could really contribute. But also one idea was to do a little beach at the side of Strandvägen, which is beach roads implemented. And so to also create a little bathing spot for the people of Stockholm inside the city, because we're really lacking, I think, of like bathing spots in the inner city.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. I'm picturing the experience, how it will look like when I will be there and so on. It's really interesting. And during your course, you have been in contact with many like experts from the municipality, industry, from different fields, and even internationally recognized lecturers. So how has it affected your work or your view of the architect?
To be honest, I never considered myself getting a lecture on algae, for example. Like that was really new to me in architecture. But yeah, for me, like it showed exactly how varied our job actually is as an architect. And yeah, it has really changed my view on how we should plan, or like in general, the topic, like not that we should get away from the thinking of like, okay, we're the humans, we're the top of the food chain kind of, and we just plan for us, but also like there are other actors we barely even see or barely recognize, but they're there. And they also deserve that we consider them into our planning. and we can also have a benefit from that.
When you say actors, like you mean people or like animals?
For example, like fish. One of the main reasons we also plant the wetlands was there is like a really, like the Baltic Sea is dead in that area, and we really wanted to bring back a living space for the fish, which were actually like so rich in this area. So we planted the wetlands, especially like for the pike, which really likes this like shallow water. And we could also like contribute from that, because then we have like more biodiversity, like more birds in this area, and yeah, whereas life there, it's also good for humans.
Yeah, and like in general, how has this course affected you, like as a Nicole?
It has affected me personally in that sense that it has like strengthened me, in my opinion. Like I really care about sustainability. And it's a very like huge topic for me, like for myself, but also like for me as an architect or becoming architect. And but also how important it is to include landscape architecture into our design proposal. And really like that's a totally underestimated part of our job is landscape architecture. It's so important, and it will become even more important in the future. And yeah, that was really one thing, affected me a lot. And also like that I got rid of the thinking that a park is fine with just grass fields and plant some trees there. Like that's not a park.
And that's
anymore.
it.
Exactly.
What is a park then?
A park should be vibrating, kind of like there should be different kinds of habitation for different kinds of like not human actors, like I don't know, bees, insects, birds, fish, other animals, and not just like a plain grass field where basically there is no life happening.
Yeah, this is a very interesting discussion, because what usually when I speak like to not like the majority of architects, they speak more about the materials, colors, how beautiful is a building, not really so much about landscaping. So what I see now, like you're more like, how to say, open to landscape architecture and so on. Are you thinking like to study landscape architecture, like to get more niched and specialized?
To be honest, no, I don't think so. Like what I burn for detailing stuff like constructioning. I'm more also like in my bachelor we were more civil engineers than actually architects in terms of like detailing stuff. And when like something doesn't work and I have to figure out how it works, like that's mine. I love that. But it has really changed my point of view. Like for example, in the architecture office I work, we planned a park. We got like 5th place with that in that architecture competition. And right now I'm thinking of like, how could we even get that far? Like the park is crap. I'm sorry, like it's completely crap.
I understand you.
In that sense, I would really like see that the course has like really affected me a lot in the sense, like and also valued the work more.
That's awesome. So what has been the biggest lesson now, like what you learn and what will you take back home?
The biggest lesson I've learned so far is that, if we want to continue living here, that we have to, that there is basically no space for not sustainable architecture. And also that we have to get rid of the thinking, as I said before, the architect is the one like picking the curtains and and discussing about like the tone of gray of the concrete. Like we have to change our picture of an architect and to become a more overall view. Like architecture can be so much, but also like this sustainable part and this landscape part should take way more space in an architect's job description, kind of.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. And I'm really happy to talk with you and to explore more about like your project, the design proposal, and so on. Now we are almost finishing the episode. Can you give the listener of Urbanistica podcast one very important takeaway message?
I would say dream big and don't be afraid to have a radical idea. Like radical ideas are the one provoking and the one which would then kind of put the idea into human of like thinking new and like rethink their way of being. So yeah, some people would say also that our proposal is too radical and it's not going to work, but just because of that, people would start rethinking of the area and how we live as well. So yeah, I think that's my lesson I've learned here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.